Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Nigeria has set a goal to grow its economy to a $1 trillion size by 2030 through its Renewed Hope agenda, which involves reforms such as ending fuel subsidies and improving the foreign exchange system. The strategy aims for a 7% annual growth rate by 2027, focusing on key sectors like agriculture, technology, domestic manufacturing, and fostering a more business-friendly environment. However, achieving this ambitious target faces challenges, including the need for high nominal growth and currency stability, though positive signs like increased non-oil revenue and recent GDP growth suggest potential. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will discuss the roadmap to the actualization of this economic projection. But before we get down to the discussion, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Musa Abubakar.
From the heartbeat of Lagos to the farmlands of Makurdi, the story of Nigeria is shifting gears. The goal is bold: to build a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Nigeria's economy, recently rebased, stands at 372.8 trillion naira, about $244 billion. To reach a $1 trillion, the economy must double within 5 years, sustaining annual growth of 7 to 8%, well above the current 4.23%. Oil output has risen to 1.68 million barrels per day, while the non-oil sector now contributes nearly 96% of GDP, proof that diversification is taking root. The National Development Plan 2026 to 2030 targets export expansion, stable power above 200,000 megawatts, and stronger manufacturing and digital industries. But growth must have a human face. Over 60% of Nigerians are under 30, yet youth unemployment still exceeds 30%. The plan seeks to create 25 million jobs and reduce poverty to below 25%, empowering women and small businesses through access to credit and enterprise funds.
So we want our farmers to multiply their yields. We want our fishing communities to get more from what they are doing. We want those in the agricultural sector. We want those in trades, nano industry, to see what can we do for them so that they can get wealthier. So it's not a transactional program, meaning it's not a program where you just give somebody money. You have to handhold people. It takes years.
Reforms are rebuilding confidence. The central banks has stabilized the FX market, raising foreign reserves above $42 billion. The 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget targets a deficit of 3.9% of GDP, while public debt around 40% of GDP remains sustainable. Nigeria also commits to 30% renewable energy by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060, ensuring growth that's green and inclusive. The journey to $1 trillion economy is not just a target, it's a national mission. If the plan becomes action, the citizens become partners, then by 2030, Nigeria's economy won't just grow, it will transform. In Abuja, Musa Abubakar.
Right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program one of our regular analysts here, Professor Ken Ife, development economist and global consultant.
Thank you for having me.
Right. We're joined tonight by Aliu Abubakar, a consultant and retired director of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, who has packed some 37 years experience as a trade expert and negotiator. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And joining us via Zoom from Owerri, Imo State, is Dr. Ni Akinshiju, who's chairman of the Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, so as usual on this program, at some point in time, it gets interactive, but when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure, as we always do every Tuesday. But let's go into the business of the day. It's about $1 trillion economy target by 2030. Really ambitious, isn't that, Professor Kenifi?
It is.
Right, so how do we go about that, achieving that?
It is. But you cannot do it with 7% that I had mentioned. Because if you run the numbers, even if you don't use 27%, use 10%. 10% next year with a GDP of 245 billion will be 270. Another 10%, it will be 300. Another 7%, it will be 330. 363, 400. It can't be, you won't hit it at 10%, not even 7%. At 15%, you still won't hit it. You have to be going to around 20 to be able to come near.
And that's doable, you think?
Oh, no. We will come to that detail.
Right, okay.
We'll come to that detail. But let me say something. When somebody says this, first of all, what is the strategy that you have and what is the business plan that you have? You see, in 2010, Vision 2010, we said we want to hit 600 billion by 2020. But not much detail was given about the trajectories. But you know what? In 2014, around November, we hit 573 billion, making us 21. Just one country out of that 20 target. But shortly after that, it collapsed to about 330 billion. In 2025, 2021, 2025, we didn't go for a number. Instead, what we do, I chaired three technical groups during the 2021-2023 national planning. I chaired bioeconomy, digital economy, and science, technology, and innovation. We didn't go for that high number. What we said is we need 350 trillion to spend between then and now. And then federal government can only raise 50 trillion. Private sector go and find 85%, 300 trillion. Now, when you are going to do planning, because I said you need a plan, the first thing you do is to carry out a review of the previous plan to see how far you have gone and what prevented you from hitting targets. So when we were doing that plan, I asked for the 2020. And then there was panic. Eventually, I got it under confidential cover. And I didn't break the cover. So I just used the information that I needed to help me do the chairing, what I was doing. Now, you should be asking for the one for 2021-2025 to inform a new plan for 2025 to 2030. Do you understand? So that you know where to weigh in. But that's just my opening statement. Then we'll come to the details.
All right, thank you so much. Let's come to Aliu Abubakar.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
$1 trillion economy.
Yes, that is an ambitious plan, but I believe is doable if we have a good plan, good policies, and good strategies to achieve them. So I believe it's something that is doable, and with the right kind of leadership and commitments by Nigerians, I believe we can do it. That's my own optimistic view about it.
Okay, let's go on to Owerri. And Dr. Nia Kishiju is with us there. He joins us via Zoom. Yes, there you are. And I'm putting the same question to you. You know, in our younger days, trillion was an unheard of term. In fact, not many then knew that there was a figure called a trillion. And here we are in 2025, and we're projecting that this country should be a $1 trillion economy by 2030. What are your thoughts about that?
Actually, talking about the unimaginable magnitude of a trillion back in those days, I recall that anytime we did our numbering up to 1 million, the next set will be uncountable. So much that we didn't even know if truly a trillion existed. But here is our reality. We see trillions of not naira alone, even dollars, as a commonplace description of economic and other forms of transactional activities. But I think the truth of the matter is that we know where we are coming from, and as Prof noted, we've worked the margins, of a near trillion, since we could actually talk about half a trillion between in 2014 after the rebasing of the Nigerian economy. But I think the difference is that the superficiality of our economy of the past is being removed, and I think in a more fundamental manner, the economy is being described or being situated in the free movement of pricing. And to my mind, the truth of the matter is that there are the superficial constraints, that had held down the economy. It's been given freedom, to be more impactful in fundamental ways. So I think with the policies that are being implemented now, it's very possible that we are seeing the momentum in the economy. We are seeing that new foundations and new pillars are being laid for the economy. And in different ways, we are seeing more initiatives, more creative initiatives, more policy direction. And of course, we are also lucky that various sectors of our economy are active. There are some economies that are just dependent on the agro aspect of the economy. Some are just dependent on manufacturing. Some are just dependent on services and all that. But we are actually lucky to have all this together. Either servicing, industry, commodities and all that. So to a large extent, we already have in place all the sectors that would, of course, help us realize this objective, as it were, in 2030.
Okay, we'll look at how this can be done. And Prof, earlier on, you said we'll go into it, but you just laid the foundation. So the government is looking at promoting such sectors as agriculture, manufacturing, and we've already seen oil beginning to take,
center stage.
yes, in all of this. But if you look at it, manufacturing does have its own challenges too.
Correct.
And it's dependent on so many factors.
Correct. You're right. You've actually put your finger on what it is. You see, we already have $1 trillion economy. Nigeria's GDP by purchasing power parity is $1.28 trillion. We're already a $1 trillion economy. What we are having is, when you look at nominal and real GDP, the naira value of our GDP has been going up constantly from 100 trillion to 120, 150, and now it is 343. It's been going up. But you have to deflate it by the currency exchange rates. So the moment you bring the dollar exchange rate and deflate it with that, it gives you what you are saying. Let me explain. When before the administration came in, like 4 years ago, remember, we were number one in Africa. The reason is because at an exchange rate of $1 to 500, that is what you use to deflate the GDP figure. So it was giving you 500, 450, 400, okay? As soon as you devalued, you go to 1,000, it reduces to about 300. As soon as you go to 1,500, it reduces to even 150, 160, before it picked up again by reversing. So is that deflator that we have to interrogate? Because it means that this discussion, central bank has to be in the discussion. Because you are going to talk about the policy, handling the policy rates and stabilizing the exchange rate, and then finally agree. Let me explain. Now we have 245 or 248 billion dollar. This 248, if this exchange rate drops from 1,500, 448, if it drops to 1,000, this figure now, overnight, this figure will move from 248 billion to about 400 billion. And if it goes back to what it was in May 2023, 500 to $1, that figure you're looking at goes to about 700 billion without doing anything. Do you understand? So we can talk about productivity, we can talk about all the things in sectors, but just the exchange rate impact. So what must enter into the calculus is how do we generate enough dollars to be able to accommodate our import dependence and give us the surplus that will accrete to reserves and with which the central bank will fight to sustain the value of dollar, naira. So that is a discussion that has to be part of this. And how can the capital market help in aiding foreign direct investment and long-term capital? So that is one discussion that has to take place. But then let's get to the other bit. The other bit is that the growth in our economy, incidentally, oil has increased. It gave about 23% growth. But the contribution of oil to the GDP is only about 4.1%. It has actually declined. But oil, even though this is small, it gives us 90% of our forex. 79% from crude, 11% from gas, 90%. So the rest of it, that 10%, the central bank and diaspora remittance and invincible and all those stuff, they all come to that 10%. So we must address forex strategy from the bank's perspective, and then we must address what SEC can bring to the table, and then how we can increase non-oil exports to generate dollar. And that is where we are going. The third dimension is this. Where are the growth poles we have, and then where are the opportunities? The opportunity is in AFCTA, but the AFCTA is not going to improve your GDP as much, because it will still give you some increase, but it's not going to help your dollar, because these guys are not going to be settling you with dollar. We have Africa Continental Free Trade. We have PAPSS. People are going to be using their currency to trade, so your dollar is not going to show up in those transactions. So we're still going to be hanging around with some growth, but it's not going to substantially push the GDP. So what I keep saying, and what I said in NESG, is this. We have the trade in goods and trade in services. Trade in services are doing okay. Our ICT is the digital champion, trade champion. Our banking is all over Africa. Our creative and cultural industry is doing well. But they need institutional support in terms of mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, all those, to make sure that we'll do mutual recognition. But where the crisis is in import dependency and generating export-led revenue. It is this export-led growth that will take us out of poverty by focusing on industrialization. And that's why I was saying, when you said industrialization, that is the crux. Industrialization with the purpose of exporting and then targeting the import dependency. That will give us the type of uplift that you can sustain and go to 1 trillion sustainably and create jobs as well and reduce poverty as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's hear you.
Thank you. Just to add to what Prof said, I think we have to do a lot. We have a lot to do. And one of the best things we can do is promoting our non-oil export. That's a sector which we have to pay attention to. And already we have the zero oil plan, which is on, and with some right policies and push, I believe we can increase our non-oil export, and that will go a long way in making us to achieve the $1 trillion economy by 2030. And as rightly mentioned also, the challenges facing the manufacturing sector has to be addressed because it's very critical. Without the manufacturing sector, you cannot grow much, or you cannot add value to whatever you are producing. So if the challenges can be addressed, I think it will also go a long way in making us realize the objective of a $1 trillion economy by 2030.
All right. Let's go back to Uweri and once again link up with Dr. Ni Akishiju. Oh, well. All right, we have a few challenges with that line. We'll try to fix it, and so we can get on with it. Let's look at the prospects of a more diversified economy and, again, improved business environment that could attract significant foreign investments.
Yeah, a great way forward. You see, you can have investments coming to the country, as you have been having. You can have borrowing coming, and we are doing a hell of a lot of borrowing. But unless those resources go to industrialization and manufacturing sector, you're not going to get the uplift you are looking for, and you're not going to you won't create employment. Do you understand? You won't create any employment. Okay, if you look at foreign portfolio, the last investment, capital importation, $5.2 billion. Yeah. But almost all of them were in foreign portfolio investment. I don't even think that by the end of this year, we will get up to $3 billion on foreign direct investment. And that is the one that speaks to long-term investment that, that goes to manufacturing sector, take over this and that. That is the one that goes there. The foreign portfolio investment takes advantage of currency differential and interest rate differential. You borrow money from abroad at 3-4%. You jump in here, buy treasury bills at 18%, and then you buy instruments, let's say some dollar bills at 10%. As long as the exchange rate is maintained, they make money. So they take it 1 year, they come and take their money. So it's good, it helps us to maintain a steady flow, but it doesn't actually add substantially to any of the productive capacity. So we're now going to still ask, what are the challenges facing the industrialization program? Because these are, and if you break down, if you look at the GDP figures that were released last week, you could see that the GDP performance, trade was doing well. You see ICT, banking and financial sector. Banking and finance, they give high growth figures, but their percentage of the business is a lot lower. But they still give crop production in agriculture. In agriculture reversed too. Agriculture was 0.07% in the first one. Second one, it went to about, was it 2.8%, but it's still below growth rate, population growth rate. It's still below 4.5% urbanization growth rate. So agriculture has peaked because of harvest, but it has not delivered the kind of growth that you need to make us comfortable.
All right.
So employment is still a big challenge. It's on the witness stand.
Okay, I understand that we have another of our guests joining us, also via Zoom. That's Muftau Balarima Biola, who's the national president of the Cocoa Association of Nigeria. He also joins us via Zoom from Oshogbo. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. I want to believe that you've been listening to the trend of the discussion since we started, and the thoughts of those who had already spoken. But let's get back and get your own thinking as we put forward this, it's been described as very ambitious project of developing the Nigerian economy into a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Let's hear your opening comments about that. Muftau Bolariwa Abiola, National President of Cocoa Association of Nigeria.
Knee is back.
Well, our connections are not up to speed this evening, but it would seem as if Dr. Nia Kishiju is back, up and running. Okay, so while we await a better connection with Muftau Bolariwa, let's hear Nia Kishiju. Oh, well, there we are with the National President of the Cocoa Association of Nigeria.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. Okay, thank you for being with us. I want to believe you heard my opening comments. So just go ahead and tell us what you think about this $1 trillion economy target by 2030.
Okay. Good evening, viewers. The 1 trillion economy we are talking about, as regards the commodity cocoa, cashew, and all the rest, is that we have been paying lip service to this program, in the sense that it is very easy to get 1 trillion economy with this commodity. If we are ready to do what we're supposed to do as what it happens in other neighboring countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, what do they do that's different from our own perspective? As of today, the cocoa production in Nigeria is 323,000 tons, while in Ghana is 600,000 tons, while in Ivory Coast is 2.2 million tons. So, and looking at the two countries we have mentioned, Nigeria have an arable land of improving on this crop more than any of this country. What are the major obstacles in developing this? We knew, one, this insecurity is number one that we have to first of all tackle holistically. And two, all the aging farming we have, like cocoa tree that is so old, the availability of land for the young and for the youth to be able to do proper farming is not available. Why? And why is it not available? Those who doesn't have something to do with the farm people will be talking of this our family farm land and everything. All this obstacle absolutely has to be removed from the farm for any farm can grow effectively in Nigeria. Then those people, the people that are participating in this farm are very old people. The younger ones are not trying to stay in the rural areas. We have to get something attractive for them to stay in that area. Yes, the price of cocoa went up from 1.8 million naira per ton in 2023 to up to 14 million per ton last year. Imagine if we are able to produce, we move from 323,000 tons we did last year to 1 million tons, which is quite possible because we have 16 cocoa producing states in Nigeria. But what are they doing? The highest production we have is in Ondo State, which is 80,000 tons. Ondo alone, open all what, even the same existing land we have where the cocoa is. If we are doing the good agricultural practice, the same land, the same available land should be able to give us nothing less than this, what the whole Nigeria is producing today, which is 323,000 tons. We have a Cross River, which can equally give us the same volume. We have Ogun State, which can equally give us the same volume. We have Osun State, we have Oyo State, we have Edo State. All these few states among the 16 cocoa producing states can give us that highest volume. If in total, all these states can now giving us the sizable volume of what we require, 1 trillion economy is achieved. Not only in cocoa, we have cashew, which can equally give us the same thing. Apart from the sesame seed in the north, can equally give us the same thing. But how do we encourage the farmers? What do we have to do to ensure that this production has to be increased physically? One, they should be having the right good agricultural practice. That is one. Because the yield per acre of cocoa, per hectares of cocoa in Nigeria today is 300. 300 tons, 300 kilo. While in some country, per acre is 1,000. And because some of these farms are people that are doing it, they are already very old. The one that's not old are not doing the right thing to improve this farm. And cost of maintaining farm is very expensive. No any support significantly either from Minister of Agri or Federal Minister of Trade and Investment to support these farmers. Then the people in the farm itself, they are facing serious economic challenge to improve our production. But if all these various things were able to mitigate this crisis, Nigeria, it's very easy for Nigeria within a twinkle of time to achieve that 1 trillion economy. Cocoa, cashew, sesame seed, the three crops alone can give us that what we are talking of 1 trillion economy. But are we ready to improve on this thing? That's the question. That's the 1 million question.
All right.
Yes, government are trying for some times now, doing one thing or the other. But we still need to sit down and be focused on these various crops to develop our own economy. We have no business with poverty as far as Nigeria is concerned. If all these crops, the three major crops leading us are today, are properly addressed and focused. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. You've made quite a number of submissions. We'll look into them as the program progresses. But we also have a number of reports that speak to the issues at stake. Let's take this one from Lagos.
The Economic Growth Plan, aimed at elevating Nigeria's economy to over $1 trillion by the year 2030, has made the present administration to be intentional by putting deliberate steps towards addressing loopholes and redirecting the financial sector on the path towards economic recovery.
We had to act decisively to rein in inflation. We tightened policy aggressively, raising rates by more than 800 basis points and strengthening liquidity management. We introduced a willing buyer, willing seller framework, unified exchange rate windows, and cleared the backlog of verifiable foreign exchange commitments, restoring market confidence.
Required actually is not so much just the government, but we as citizens, we really need at this point to now be asking ourselves, what can we do to make sure that the reforms of the government payoff for everybody.
The goal is part of a broader strategy to accelerate economic reforms, boost key sectors, and strengthen local markets.
Build the underpinning enablers, the infrastructure, the communication systems, the power supply, and support it with education and healthcare for the people of Nigeria. We believe the economy will be galvanized with a lot of people finding active opportunities for employment or even creation of businesses that will drive the growth of Nigeria far beyond the $1 trillion mark that President Tinubu has proposed.
Experts recommend the government to leverage the benefit of the capital market in boosting the economy.
A lot more listings, especially from the government side, listing of their companies will also help boost the market activity. But we think that listing will encourage better governance across different companies, across different sectors, and that will encourage more internationals to also find a means of coming into our market by finding instruments to invest in. So we think that utilizing the capital market, it becomes a lot easier to set the right metrics in actualizing the $1 trillion economy.
The pathway towards economic sustainability, experts say, will promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, reduce poverty, and improve standards of living for Nigerians. In Lagos, Amaka O.
Next, we take this report from Kanu.
The fertile lands and flowing rivers of the hinterlands, where farmers and pastoralists engage in seasonal activities, to the vibrant commercial hub of Kanu, economic interdependence remains clear. While rural farmers and herders drive production, Kano City absorbs their output through vast markets, agro-processing mills, and expanding industries, many of which are yet to reach full capacity. With the vast population and abundant human capital, Kano holds immense promise. But experts say this potential must be deliberately harnessed into productive economic assets in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's vision of building $1 trillion economy.
What is needed is, of course, having a blueprint that will be able to carry along this, and this can be done in collaboration by the public and the private sector to develop a blueprint, and of course to provide support and funding for all the sectors we have mentioned so that the objective can be achieved.
In the 1960s, Nigeria's solid mineral sector contributed double digits to the national GDP. Today, that figure has dropped to less than 1%. Experts believe this trend can be reversed if the country fully enforces its mining laws and policies to attract both local and foreign investment.
Because in those days, the only difference was that is this creation of enabling environment. Because the minerals are there in the ground. God has endowed us with. It will not change because of colonial or this, they are there. But if you don't create that environment and create a very effective mining sector governance, because remember that time, it was the colonial time, they were not joking with it because the country was supplying British.
Tourism too presents a viable path to economic diversification with the potential to create jobs, boost revenue, and reduce the nation's dependence on oil.
Kanu Festival, Kanfest, Kalonkwa in Hausa. This festival is intended to be an international event. We are starting it this year, this month, God willing. It is an avenue that we want to use to market Kano State to international community.
With increased state revenues following the removal of fuel subsidy, analysts say governments at all levels must channel resources into infrastructure, modern skills development, and investor-friendly policies to make the $1 trillion economy goal a reality.
All right, that report from Kano. I wonder if we can have Dr. Nia Keshiju back on Zoom. Right, if you're there, Dr. Keshiju. Yes. Now, I believe you listened to the national president of the Cocoa Association of Nigeria, where he said that that single crop alone can even take Nigeria to that level. However, there's so many things that need to be done for that to be actualized, not the least value addition. And so we have seen all of this in many of the sectors where the government is concentrating on in order to drive this project of $1 trillion economy. However, the question still remains about just how much will goes into this and all those things that need to be done to get it off the ground.
In addition to your submissions, I also believe it's important for officials of advocacy group as the national president of Cocoa Farmers to also understand where to target these advocacies. For instance, if you're talking principally about agriculture, I believe that major targets, in terms of advocacy, would be governors of subnationals, because it's within the confines, of the governors that you actually have possibilities of activating and, of course, sustaining agriculture, either in terms of land, in terms of physical support, in terms of deployment of Greek officers and all that. So I believe there should be a more constructive engagement with governors. Yes, I have also been following what the federal government has been doing, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, but to a large extent, the principal factors, of agriculture, lands, and of course irrigation and all that, and most of that belongs in the purview of the state governments. And more than that, we also need more active local government administration, because before you belong in a state, you actually belong in the local governments, and lands are principally located in local governments. And if you have, of course, you also have cabinet-like structures in the local government, where you have the supervisor for agriculture, who is responsible for agricultural activities, around within the territory of jurisdiction of the local government. Now that's one. Of course, if we also had the potentials of palm oil, you can only imagine what we can also harvest, or what we can earn, in terms of dollars, in terms of foreign exchange from that aspect of crop production in agriculture. But I also like to go beyond the fact that, yes, we need to generate a lot of dollars, as Prof. Ken had submitted. But again, even in saving from our dollar expenditure, our foreign exchange expenditure, we would actually be saving so much to augment whatever we are earning. For over a long period of time, more than 40 years precisely, Nigeria was actually the prodigal entity. I don't want to use the word prodigal son, for the world. We earn the little from our crude oil and we take it back right after the revenue comes to the system, to fund our superficialities, our existence. We virtually imported every means of existence. So we were actually, as they say, funding industries across the world by purchasing things that we could produce in Nigeria. And now, for me, I think one of the most essential factors of strategy to look at is how to drive, import substitution. And I must acknowledge what the federal government is also doing in that regard, because by the policy of the harmonization of foreign exchange markets windows, we have seen that the cost of transaction of foreign exchange had also discouraged possible wholesale foreign exchange transfers, in terms of importing everything that we needed, to a more focused, more plans by the private sectors, manufacturers and all that, to start engaging in backward integration. And by that, we are also, of course, saving some foreign exchange. And I think if we don't, by the time we grow into a scalable level, we'll be doing more of that. An example actually is the Dangote refineries. It's like a fairy tale thing for anybody that lived, in the 70s and the 80s, to imagine that Nigeria would actually, as a country, be importing PMS, aviation fuel, and all that to very developed countries of the world. So much that we've had that the Dangote refineries had exported more than 1 billion liters of PMS to America, the whole mighty America. This should be one, aside being foreign exchange earners for us, they are also virtues of pride, for the national being of the average Nigerian. So I am saying essentially that to a large extent, the more we are also become more productive within our jurisdiction, the more we are able to start cutting off and, of course, shutting down all possible importation of non-capital goods. We would be doing more for ourselves by retaining our earnings and be able, of course, to channel these earnings into more productive channels and, of course, enhance the socialization process of the Nigerian economy. And when I talk about socialization process, I'm talking about the very uncomfortable population of the poor, that we have amongst us historically, and up till now. And of course, going forward, the truth of the matter is I have confidence and I'm optimistic, I should land on that the $1 trillion economy is very, very possible, very, very achievable. And that it's just about, of course, what we are doing, what the government is doing now, reinforce it more, of course, with the involvement of the foreign investors, domestic investors, and we are seeing that environment being created, either in terms of the predictability, of our fiscal environment, in terms of predictability too, and of course the growing integrity that we can see in our monetary policy deployments too. So the outcome in the next 5 years is predictable. And we also have seen how international organizations, World Bank, IMF, Fitch, and others, had also by consensus, agreed to the fact that we have achieved the first level of economic development, which is macroeconomic stability. That naturally would have to come first before we even start talking about momentum in the economy. So if everybody, globally and domestic economists and all that, had agreed that we have achieved this stability, the next level would be actually growth, and of course growth with momentum. And I believe, of course, we should be able to achieve that 7 to 8% in the 7 to 8% GDP growth in the next 2 to 3 years.
All right, back here in the studio in Abuja, increased agricultural production, manufacturing, with an eye on export. Here comes trade.
Yes. Thank you very much. The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has a critical role to play when it comes to exports, increase in exports. The agency under the Ministry, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, as I mentioned earlier on, has come up with a plan to increase that exports. And once that is realized, I believe we'll be able to achieve the objective of $1 trillion economy by 2030. That's in about 5 years' time. Then in the area of manufacturing, we also have to do a lot. Most of our industries have gone down over the years. They need to be revived. And there is a plan in the ministry to revive those ailing industries so that they can come on board.
That for me is the biggest challenge in manufacturing.
Yes.
Because if you're looking to export, you first of all are producing more. You have something tangible to put out there. Yeah. But if you are still at this point grappling with how to get your industry up and running, then you begin to look at the timelines you have and wonder if you can keep those timelines.
Yeah, it's possible. Some of the industries are actually up and running, but many of them are not. And the plan is to make sure that those that are ailing or those that are not working come on stream to complement and to assist in the general economic transformation and growth generally. So there is a plan to revive all the ailing industries.
Prof. Yeah, I think we're coming to the subject matter now, where I'm glad I actually listened to the cocoa champion, the president. You see, cocoa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire produce 72% of world cocoa. But if you look at the entire value chain of cocoa, 3 of us only account for 7% of that value chain. And then if you take it one by one, the value that we add is only about 10% to our cocoa. And then we'll push it out. Ghana adds about 20% value addition. Cote d'Ivoire does as much as 30%. So when you add 10%, your revenue increases by almost doubles. And then if you add 30% value, it triples. So that's why the government passed the act, the 30% value addition, mandatory value addition act on raw materials. So I was expecting that the president will address their strategy for adding value. And that is critical. Now, it's not just agriculture, and I'm glad he actually outlined many of the issues, good agricultural practice, good manufacturing, all of those issues, apart also investment in clearing more land, replanting, bringing better yield materials and all of that, looking at the aging population, the old plant, all of those stuff are important. But adding value is critical because that is where you generate the employment. Because otherwise, you export raw material, you're exporting job, and you're importing poverty. It doesn't matter what you say, because I run the number again. If you move by 10%, you end up in 2030 with 400. If you go by 15%, you end up in 540. If you go by 20%, you end up in 600 billion. You have to get about 25% growth rate to actually hit that, all things being equal. But all things are never equal, because the exchange rate is still going to go and deflate the figure to tell you what you are going to get. So now the real challenge right now here is we have Africa Continental Free Trade staring at our face. Huge opportunity. How are we going to exploit it? We are not worried about trade in services because these guys, they can take care of themselves. Are you going to send raw material to African countries? So where is your strategy to implement the mandatory 30% value addition? So that you can have products you can send out there to create jobs here and then raise our value. Now that comes to the second issue. We know that if you talk about manufacturing, the biggest one is power. You've mentioned this. It can move. A population of 230 million is still glorifying on 5,000 megawatt. When South Africa, you have 4 times their population, has 58,000 megawatt, they have per capita 40 times more power than Nigeria. But it's not just power. As far as I'm concerned, as a development economist, the biggest challenge we have in Nigeria is that we haven't got an export-led growth strategy that connects to industrialization and focuses on manufacturing, and then get all the policies, macroeconomic policies, to talk to it. Trade policy has to revise and get a new trade policy that talks to this. Industrial policy, we don't have. We need an industrial policy and an industrial strategy, refrigeration strategy, that talks to this. Investment and capital market, all of them should talk to this. CBN will have to talk to that, monetary policy. But the biggest elephant in the room is the fiscal policy. It's the fiscal policy that causes the distortions. It's the fiscal policy that allowed frivolous import that killed through 2 million jobs, and Kanu, Kaduna, and Lagos, the textile jobs, they are gone, and it's the graveyard. It's fiscal policy that allows the importation of fuel that are substandard and threatening private sector investment in the industry. Is the private sector, is they give the old incentive? So that is the one that needs to tell us how they are going to support industrialization. So all the macroeconomic policies need to converge and deal. Everybody should tell us what they will do on this agenda. Don't leave it to NAPC. NAPC can't talk to anybody, can't go and have a meeting with the central bank governor. I'm telling you, I've been in this system. The DG cannot phone the governor, I want to have a meeting with you, or phone the minister. No, they won't. You've got to have a mandate. If you are doing new development plan, get all of them to come to the same table and tell us, give us their own plan on what they're going to do on this agenda. That's when you're going to have traction.
We'll take a short break here. When we return, there'll be more on pushing this $1 trillion economy target by 2030. And hopefully the lines would be open. You can join in the conversation. And
Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. It's towards the $1 trillion economy target by 2030. This segment is where the phone lines are open and you can join in the conversation. The numbers to call will be on your screen. We encourage you to take advantage of those numbers and call in. And if you do call in and your call gets through to the studio, also remember to turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we encourage you to go straight to the point, so we keep it straight, short, so others can get on the platform. And we advise not to bother too much about the greetings. A simple hello will do. So now we start off with another of our reports from Oka.
Federal government's new development blueprint envisions Nigeria transforming into a $1 trillion economy by 2030, a bold target anchored on economic reforms, infrastructure investment, and private sector growth. Beyond growing the economy, the plan aims to reduce poverty, unemployment, and inequality, ensuring that growth is both sustainable and inclusive.
Achieving $1 trillion economy by 2030, it depends on prudent management. But the most important one is creating room for production, because presently our economy is solely dependent on oil, mono economy, which is not good. But if there will be rooms whereby you can diversify, you can encourage production, employment, so that we can have so many sources of achieving this objective.
First of all, we need to tackle our economy. From there, we can achieve, everything is possible if we are serious.
If they saved a vast amount of our resources, by 2030, I believe our economy will get to that extent.
Nigeria is one of the greatest nations in the whole world. So if we're able to get that, we have power. The power is that we'll be able to command and tell other nations, come, Nigeria is great.
In Anambra State, preparations are already taking shape. With strong trade and manufacturing bases in Nnewi, Onitsha, and Oka, the state is investing in skills development, digital infrastructure, and business reforms to drive growth and attract investors.
Coming to Anambra State, we have a working governor. He's an economist. By the time his tenure elapses, the next governor can start from other policies he has laid on ground.
Analysts believe that with continued focus on education, technology, and industrial expansion, Anambra can play a vital role in achieving Nigeria's $1 trillion economy vision.
Our government should know how to make human investment. Invest in the youth.
Building a $1 trillion economy, observers say, will take consistency, discipline, and inclusion, ensuring that every Nigerian contributes to and benefits from national growth. In Oka, Joy Iluebu.
The government needs to get out.
All right, that's another of our reports. And back here in the studio, let's begin the conversation and looking at many of those issues that have been raised in the reports, and of course others that are, that speak to the whole concept of a $1 trillion economy target by 2030. The federal government drives the process, but we go to the sub-nationals, as Dr. Nia Kinshiju highlighted. Is or should we say, are the subnationals on the same page with the government?
They're not. They're not, because they felt disconnected. You see, if you know, in the late 60s, you heard about Akbara and the pyramid, the Granite Pyramid, you have the cocoa that built, or you see all that. Because the regions were controlling, they organized the markets, they had the plantations, then you had the commodity exchanges that collect, they push. But the military dissolved those. So you haven't got those markets, you know, they're not there. Those commodity boards, they're not there as a time. But anyway, we've talked a bit about agriculture. How about mining solid minerals? Now, solid minerals are very important because we haven't got the big players there. We have a lot of artisanal miners, but you've got to organize them and bring them under regulation. But look at Central Bank in the last dispensation spent about 500 billion going for our gold, then take, refine, and send to the reserves. Ghana is doing exactly the same thing, and Ghana's currency, cedis, have appreciated by about 40%. So we need to, in implementing this our 30% value addition, the government should look to buy or organize for this gold to get into their, and then get them refined and then send them into our reserves. That's one way of strengthening our naira, and then also provide enough guarantee for external borrowing. Then the other one, let's look at, and many other minerals have the same thing. Lithium is all right, and that's how I want all of that. And now let's look at petroleum and oil and gas. People hate to hear that word, oil and gas, and all that they're saying, non-oil. But we haven't actually done much in oil and gas, except that government ran the show, and everybody got fed up. NNPC sent all of us to the gutters. In Texas, in America, just one state, you have 32 refineries there, and you have 5,000 petrochemical industries all around that cluster. What prevents you from having Dangote that put $20 billion there, have a deliberate government program that goes around there, and have about 50 billion program that says, let's get a cluster? Because he will supply all the people who want to manufacture tire, carbon black, who want to manufacture plastic, polyethylene and propylene. Everything they need, they will supply to them. And the Indorama is another one. So all these people that have resolved the asymmetry and disalignments in infrastructure there form clusters to work with them, and they will export their products, so that the sadness around oil and gas will turn and start giving us some export revenue from their downstream industries.
All right.
Not what we are doing with NNPC at the moment.
Okay, we have a caller on the line already. Hyacinth, calling in from Abakaliki. Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you very much. My opinion, my name is Hyacinth. I work from Abakaliki. Now, please, I am of the opinion that this $1 trillion economy can be given to us, at least 70% of it can be given to us by agriculture alone. If the corruption that is militating against it, for example, 10 years, the federal government has been pretty much to enhance integrated production of agriculture, even down to the rural level. But the problem we have is that the link between the federal government and the rural farmers is terribly corrupt. That this corruption is with impunity. Now, I am of the opinion that we change this link. Let the churches, mosques, be used as the link between the federal government and the rural farmers. What is disturbing is that when these politicians divert whatever is given to farmers, finance, agricultural subsidies, and some other empowerment schemes, now they begin to blame the federal government instead of blaming the politicians that form the corrupt link. So I suggest that the federal government should now try using the churches, the mosques, at least they will not in any way try to compromise their faith. Because I know some of the church leaders, especially at the high level, will try to do it in such a way that agri subsidies like the fertilizer can be got from them, just like it was in the 1970s and the early 80s. When the farmers didn't lack anything, they could easily walk to where the fertilizer pyramids were kept and buy at very subsidized prices. Please, let us drop this link of politicians. It is terribly corrupt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hassan. I guess we'll be responding to the issues you raised there. But let's see if we still have the national president of the Cocoa Association still with us. Do we still have him with us?
Yes, sir.
Right.
How with you?
Good. So this is where you come in. You heard the very first caller here, and he's raising questions about the links between government and the rural farmers. And of course, he says that agriculture can can get Nigeria this $1 trillion economy.
Okay, sir. What the man said is very, very correct. As at today, and as we are seeing, our rural areas is not accessible. Rural area, no security. Somebody was telling us about value addition. Value addition. Value addition is good for a product that you have a comparative advantage. We are producing cocoa, for instance, in Nigeria. We are not consuming cocoa. You have to export virtually 90% of what you are producing. And the country that are consuming it will dictate the price of what you can sell to them. Until we start encourage import substitution. What do we mean? This cocoa is supposed to be consuming minimum of 40 to 50% of what you are producing locally. And how do we do it? We have all these school leavers, secondary school, primary school, until we start encouraging people to start consuming chocolate, start consuming all those additives that are coming out from cocoa locally. So, because whatever you are producing and you can consume, you can dictate the price internationally. But if you cannot, you still live your life at the control of these foreign buyers. That is one critical problem. The cost of production is extremely high here. If the bank now are charging 32, 33, 35% interest rates, which farmer can borrow that money to go and improve his own family? How is he going to survive? Because it's good to talk trillion economy. We have to ensure that all the variables are being at least reduced to the barest minimum to support these farmers in the rural areas. All of us, we are in the cities. What these people are going through is a hell of a problem. When you see this farmer, no good road, as I was saying, no infrastructure in the rural areas. What people survive? How do you now want the young people to remain in the farm? Everybody comes to the city, and the action point is in the farm. So there is a complete disconnection between the government and the farmers. And somebody was talking the other time that this marketing board. What do we mean by marketing board? Marketing board to sell what? Do we have problem of selling our product outside? The answer is no. Because once you set up a marketing board, you put some people there that have no business to do with cocoa, cashew, certain or whatever to manage it. This is your corruption, the corruption syndrome in the system. Even days when this country was doing well, that we are seeing, until late 80s, when all these so-called board members, they are fighting. Those who are working at thinner in the farm. The cocoa production then nosedived from 300,000 tons to 75,000 tons because the farmers went to the bush and cut everything down.
Okay. All right. We'll return to you. Muftar Bolarin Abiola from Oshogbo. We have a caller on the line, Comrade Otori, who's calling in from Kogi. Let's hear you, Comrade Otori.
Yes, good evening, sir. Yes, I've been trying to get to see all this time. My belief is that we can achieve this through the steel sector. You see, the industries are already failing, and that government is not sincere with developing the industry that we have. And the private bodies, because of so many factors, we cannot get anything right. If the industries are fine, we can reach that target. If you inject life into the steel sector, as I'm talking to you now, textile and other sectors that will definitely give gainful employment to our people, we will be happy for it. And the industry that we are talking about, look at Ajakuta. If you are talking about agriculture, we should be able to produce tools that will improve the issue of agriculture. And of course, apart from that, we should also be able to be self-sustained, because the steel sector will be able to provide for us. Government is looking for what we benefit and what they can gain from immediately, and not long-time profit. So I want to appeal that if we want to really be serious in this country, the steel sector must be seriously be considered, so that everything will work. Ajakuta has been there, and nothing is happening. And we are saying that if we inject life into it, Nigeria will be better for it. We cannot beat our chest for anything. In every nation that is developing, there must be steel. In most places where they don't even have raw materials, you see them struggling to get steel, and they still produce steel. But unfortunately, some of our technocrats are believing that steel is nothing. Don't inject life into steel. The best steel sector in the world is still two black furnace, which Ajakuta is one. Oshogbo, as you have seen, Delta, as you have seen, if they are working, we will be happy for it, and Nigeria will be proud of it. I want to still maintain myself that we have lost the track by not working, by not definitely injecting life into the steel sector. Okay. Once Ajakuta steel is working, all of that steel will pick up, because it will provide raw material to most of them. So that is my own contribution.
All right. Thank you very much, Comrade Otori. Well, back here, Ali Abubakar. What are your comments on what Comrade Otori just put across now?
Yeah, I think the steel sector is very critical to develop the Nigerian economy. Once the steel sector is up and running, I believe a lot of things will happen, and so many things will fall in place. But the issue of federal government and subnationals, I think the coordination and the synergy is very critical, because we have a situation whereby the federal government is there, but most of the resources and most of the things are in the subnational, in states and local governments. I just want to cite the example of AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is an agreement which Prof has mentioned, which has a lot of potential and through which we can change the fortune of this country. We have launched the state chapters, and we also inform the states that they have to cascade it to the local government level. So that coordination and synergy is very key to getting things right, whether in the area of agriculture, whether in the area of mining and other sectors. So that coordination and synergy has to be right for us to realize a lot of things, including achieving the $1 trillion economy by 2030. The 3 tiers of government must come together and work together to make things much easier for the economy to grow and for us to achieve the 2030, the $1 trillion economy by 2030.
Back to the phones. We have Baba Gana calling in from Maiduguri. Baba Gana, go ahead.
Good evening, Tuesday Live.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Tuesday Live.
Good evening, Baba Gana, go ahead.
Good evening, Tuesday Live. Yeah, my name is Baba Gana. Yeah, I'm calling from Maiduguri.
Yes, go on with your question or comment. All right. Well, let's see if we can get Dr. Nia Kinshiju online, if he's there with us. Yes. You started the conversation about the subnationals keying into all of this and highlighting the critical role they have to play. Now, a lot has been said about, for instance, agriculture, but let's even move a little bit away from agriculture for the time being. We've looked at mining, for instance, but the key to all of this is employment generation. With a huge army of people looking for jobs, I would say the job market is busting at the seams.
I don't think the employment population or the population of employable Nigerian youths, it's vast that they cannot be managed. The fact is that it's because we have a constrained economic space. That is why it appears that a segment of our population that is supposed to be perhaps the most important segment, of any population, are being sidelined or are being considered as overpopulated. Every economy looks forward to a young population because one, it establishes the possibility of sustainability, and of course the possibility of bridging, from one generation to the other. And to a large extent, when you have a younger generation or younger population in a jurisdiction, you also have a lot of energy, driving the economic space. So I think it is just because we have, in many ways, misaligned policies, business policies, economic policies over the years that we didn't get this right. But I think, fortunately, over the last recent years, we are seeing new possibilities around that that population definition, as it were. I am seeing more of tech-savvy young Nigerians. I am seeing more of committed, energy-driven young Nigerians, and I'm even seeing more young Nigerians who are looking forward to possibilities in the agricultural sector. But I just want to divert a little bit and allow me to track back to the submission by Prof, on the oil and gas sector. The oil and gas sector has been a recent study, undertaking a recent study on the potentials of the oil and gas sector. And I determined after that after that study, that perhaps the most important major driver, and if we have to be practical as a sovereign state, the major driver of our economy still remains the oil and gas sector. Yes, it has been so traduced, it has been so abused, and of course so misaligned over the years that we've lost so many opportunities, so many economic chances for development. But the truth still is, if we buy into the vision of the federal government to increase and enlarge production of crude oil, for instance, to up to $3 million, 3 million barrels a day, and of course encourage a lot of private sector-driven refinery activities in that sector. It would be, in fact, we would be able, to a large extent, start achieving this vision of a $1 million economy, perhaps in the next 3 or 4 years, because it's the major provider of foreign exchange. And if you are able to also contain, that foreign exchange hand within the economy to drive productive activities, in agriculture, for instance, we romanticize the possibilities, the potentials of what we can get from agriculture. We romanticize the possibilities and potentials of what we can get from solid minerals. But we need a sector that can drive these other sectors. It is also only in the oil and gas sector that we can actually also have foreign investors coming easily. Since there have been clarity, in policies around oil and gas over the last so many months, we've seen how there have been up to more than $8 billion commitment, from a foreign investment. Foreign investors in that sector. So what that tells us is that that is a clear area of comparative advantage that we need to buy into as a people, and of course drive, the vision of the federal government into it. And again, the more money we earn, from the oil and gas sector, it means the more money that will be made available at FAC, the Federal Account and Allocation Committee, which also means that the more fund and revenue that will be made available to the other tiers of government, that would, of course, at the end of the day, impact the Nigerian people at the grassroots. So I think there is a need to start looking at our area of comparative advantage, and especially the shortest cuts, to the $1 trillion economy. And I believe the oil and gas sector still provide that possibility to the shortest cut.
Okay. Back to the phones, another caller, Gabriel calling in from Ondo. Hello, Gabriel. Go ahead. Oh, well. Gabriel, I believe, is calling in from Edo.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? Edo State here.
Yeah, okay, Gabriel, my apologies. Calling in from Edo State. Go ahead, please. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, go ahead.
Yes, good evening. So, we've been talking. Yes, to attain that milestone, because the way it is now, it's like it's only the federal government that is driving this. I think they need to remind the states and the local government that we have to do this, to achieve this together. Because for now, the local government is not like a joke. You understand? The local government need to be strengthened. They need to be real autonomy. You understand? This is where we really drive employment. So I think if all these are done, then in a short time we'll achieve it.
All right, thank you, Gabriel, calling in from Edo. That's back here in the studio. Prof. Nigeria is not an island. and global scenarios can impact whatever plans that you make. And so the question would be, how do you insulate yourself from the uncertainties and global economic trends, trade policies, and geopolitical instability as you walk towards this? Of course, you can see what's happening in the world with trade wars and brewing trade wars and realignments, particularly in the West and on the Far East.
Yeah, what we inherited, our legacy, colonial legacy, is specialization of labor. We're international division of labor that says you produce raw material, send it to me, they will process it, and they send it back to you to consume. And in fact, when you looked at this proposed European Economic Partnership Agreement, you remember 2012-14, they actually wanted us to have, they wanted to have 80% of our import. We didn't sign it, but other states, other countries had to sign. And can you explain to me, if we have to buy 80% of what we import from Europe, it means that there was no intention for us to trade with other African countries, or with Japan, or with India, or with China, or America, or Brazil. Just that one. And the impact of all these arrangements is that you have over 800 years a repressive, oppressive, extractive economic relationship between us and the global north. They can allow everything to change, but they want to protect that. Now, what it means to us, ourselves, is we have to use everything at our disposal. At the moment, we are not using everything at our disposal. When we focus on an export-led growth strategy and you have industrialization at the middle of it, then all resources must point there. But it's not just only federal resources, macroeconomic resources at the federal disposal. The state has to come in. But for the state to come in, you have to unlock the state owns the land by Land Use Act, but not what is under the land. It doesn't have to remit it exclusively to the state, but they can come to the concurrent legislative list so that both state and federal can act on solid mineral. They can act on all this, you have to. And then resources need to rebalance. The allocation has to reflect increased responsibility for the states. So you have to have a revenue allocation formula that maybe gives federal government 40%. Let the states have 40 and local government will stay at 20, so that the responsibility you are giving to the states to play a more active role in industrialization. Tinubu has allowed them to enter into energy, into distribution of power. And you have seen some of them are moving in, looking resources, inviting partners. So all of that you have to give them the resources that is commensurate with additional responsibility. Because in the end of the day, they are actually the ones owning the land. They are the ones that are closest to the small businesses. They are the ones that work with the farmers. So,
Okay, let's bring in the scholar now. Frederick, calling in from Ogun State. Frederick, go ahead. Is Frederick still with us? I don't think so. Right, back here in the studio, we'll just have to skip this and go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. You mentioned that we are not an island in ourselves, and that is quite true. We are part and parcel of the international community, and we have to prepare ourselves to make sure that we address any challenges here and there. I just want to talk briefly about the ongoing trade wars. I think it was also subject of our earlier meetings. Since January this year, trade wars between the major economies. We are impacted, though we are not targeted, but even we are affected because the U.S. has imposed tariff on some of our product. We have worked to see how we can respond to that, but the major powers, the two leading economies, U.S. and China, they are trying to see how they can resolve that differences. And once it is resolved, I think it will be in the interest of everybody. We have to find creative ways to respond to these challenges so that we will not be negatively affected by the ongoing trade wars. But as I mentioned, nobody wins any trade war. It's not good for us, it's not good for anybody.
It's always said that in the matter of investments, domestic investment is key here. Okay, all right, let's bring in Umar Anachi, calling in from Birnin Kebi tonight. Umar Anachi, one of our regular callers. Go ahead, Umar. Yes, Umar Anachi. Are we having difficulties with the connection?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
My name is Umar, calling from Birnin, Umar Anachi, a regular caller. 13 trillion dollar economy. Of what benefit? We, the average Nigerians, it is not trillions dollar economy that we need. We need to survive. We need to survive this hardship. The security issue is troubling us. The economic issue is troubling us. The dollar exchange is troubling us. Today, I bought a fuel, 4 liters of fuel at the rate of 4,000, 1,100 per liter. Today, I just bought it simply because I want to start my car so that I will warm it and stop it. I even intend to have stones so that I can put it on stones. It is not a matter of driving it. I'm looking for a buyer. Zero, if you can buy, send this in. I will send you the picture to WhatsApp. If you can buy. So it is not a trillion naira economy. We want to survive. Nigerians want to survive. The issue of Henderson has not been resolved. We are in serious trouble, Zero. Poha. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's go back to Dr. Nia Kishiju. I'd like you to respond to the concerns raised by Umar Anachi when he says $1 trillion economy is not what we need now. It's what we require is immediate solution to the problem of hunger and unemployment and yes, and the cost of living generally. How do you respond to that?
Principle known as a trickle-down principle, and of course, which is the least of the hierarchy of principles when it comes to economic development. That is to say that where you have, all things being equal, where you have an inclusive economic growth, it is likely that the growth would impact virtually everybody within that jurisdiction. So if you have the size of the economy we are looking at is about $244 billion, and by whatever means we are able to achieve a 1 trillion economic size, it means that so many things, happen within that economy, so much that the sectors we have been talking about, manufacturing, agriculture, oil and gas, services and all that, had expanded. And in expanding, they are also employing more people. And in employing, they are delivering products are being produced, manufactured at a relatively cheaper rate and all that. So that is actually one of the inherent advantage or benefits of a large economic size. So for the last caller, it is important that we focus on the larger picture. The unfortunate thing is that looking at survival, personal survival, became the bedrock of our policy making, decision making processes over the last so many years. So much that the important thing for us was to create a micro space, for us to survive, to just keep body and soul together. That was what gave us the idea of subsidy, fuel subsidy in the first instance. If we had properly harnessed the earnings, from our crude oil, and we had also been able to sustain the refinery, the secondary levels in the oil and gas sector, either at the level of the nationally owned refineries, or that we have had more private refineries coming in. By now, we will not be buying fuel at 1,100 naira per liter, because we would have had more people, more private sector operators coming into that space to produce more. So I think what this government is doing is to remove all those constraints, that had held the economy down in such a way that new opportunities are thrown up, by these policies of economic enlargement. And that's the way I see it. It's economic enlargement. Yes, the pain is there. It has come with the pain, because these are pains, we had actually postponed over time because we're trying to survive both as a nation, as a sovereign state, and as individuals in that sovereign state.
All right, thank you very much for addressing that, except if you want to contribute to that. I've seen this, as Dr. Akishiju says, the larger picture rather than the immediate survival.
Yeah, you see, when the World Bank presented their report on Wednesday last week, at the same time as the NESG was doing their own thing, Monday to Wednesday, I spoke on Wednesday at NESG. It was quite coincidental that much of the NESG trust is recognizing that there's growth in the economy. And then also, the World Bank says, yeah, all the indices are positive. All the macroeconomic, they're all ticking good. Anywhere you look at it, balance of payments, growth, everything. But the big worry around the table everywhere is the disconnect between those growths you are seeing and the increasing unemployment and increasing people, 139 million going into a multidimensional poverty, and all the things you just described, that man has just spoken about. That there are more and more of those visiting us, yet you are seeing growth. So those growth are not inclusive. So there's a question about the quality of the growth. So that was why I came down in my speech on what the direction has to be. You have to move in that direction so that you can create employment, you reduce poverty, utilize your resources, and focus it on exporting it. Then all the policies must talk to it. Government, one other thing, apart from the revenue allocation between federal and state to enable states to carry more responsibility, borrowing is on the exclusive legislative list. State, local government can't borrow without federal government approving. And if you look at borrowing profile, federal government takes about 80% of the borrowing. So we have to look at those. What are you actually borrowing for? And how does some of that borrowing go to the industrial infrastructure that we require to do what we want to do? At the moment, there are more questions than answers in that area. And we don't have the time to go into those details.
I've only a few more minutes to go on this, so we'll go over to Oshogbo again and hopefully link up with Muftau Balariwa Abiola, the president of the Cocoa Association. And in his winding down comments, we would want him to talk about how this will improve on the standard of living. I guess that's all what it is about for the citizens.
All 1 trillion economy or whatever economy we are trying to see, we should look at it in a way that how does it affect average Nigerian. To grow an economy is to grow your people. And to grow your people is to ensure that every indices are on the right track. The federal government is interested in 1 trillion economy. They are giving a lot of allocations to the state and the local government. How does this money being applied to? Federal government cannot touch the rural area. It's these governors and the chairman of the local government has to be more active to ensure that whatever money they get actually go to the right area. And that's why there's a lot of, that's the reason why we have a lot of disconnection between the state, between the federal and the state, and the local governments. So our people, the government, the federal government has a lot to do to ensure that there's as much as money are given to this state government, let them be responsive to their responsibilities. We said the land is in their hand. The infrastructure is available, but until every 3 tiers of government are working in the same direction, whatever efforts the government is making can never be realized. Because one thing is, I want this, the other people are working in another direction. Until all of us are thinking in the same direction, that this nation can achieve our set targets. As at today, as I was saying the other time, the cost of borrowing locally is too expensive to drive economy to achieve the desired results. The security at the rural area is also a major challenge. Somebody who cannot farm basic foods to survive, and you are saying, okay, go and produce it, go and produce that, when it's not even sure of surviving tomorrow. So, as a nation, we have to plan our everything in a way to achieve our results.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Muftau Balariwa Abiola, National President, Cocoa Association of Nigeria, joined us via Zoom from Oshogbo. Thank you for being part of the conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, sir.
All right. Back here in the studio, let's hear your closing comments from Ali Abubakar.
Thank you very much. I think all the points that have been raised by a number of speakers, they are valid. It is important for those issues that have been mentioned, hunger, unemployment, rising cost of living to be addressed so that we'll all be better for it. And I hope the achieving $1 trillion economy will be all inclusive. All Nigerians will be able to be better with when we achieve that $1 trillion economy by 2030. Improve standard of living, and everybody, including the less privileged, is also taken care of by that objective. That's my hope and my prayer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And over to Dr. Niyi Akeshiju in Owerri.
Final note, I belong in the school of thought of those who have confidence in the Nigerian economy. I'd always held on to this belief that we've over the last 10 years, we've been blessed with the caliber or cadre of leadership that understand what are to be done, and they are doing this. And I believe that with time, start, of course, witnessing the fruition of these policies, as it were.
All right, we thank you for your comments. Dr. Nia Kinshiju, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative, linking with us from Owerri. All right, thank you
Thanks
very much.
for having me.
We hope to see you back in Abuja soon. Thank you.
Very soon.
Right. And finally, Professor Ken Ife, as we round up.
Yeah, it's doable, but it's not just based on crunching the numbers, because the numbers are lying. We're already a $1 trillion economy by GDP purchasing power parity. But to hit those nominal GDP that you are talking about, all the actors have to come together and show us what they can do to bring export-led growth and industrialization to help complement what the service sector is doing for us. We really need those two to work together so that we can lift people out of poverty and just mesmerize them, not mesmerize them with numbers.
All right. And it is on that note we must leave this conversation tonight. Big thank you to all our guests who joined us on this conversation, all about a $1 trillion economy target by 2030. Generally, our discussants believe it's doable. But how? Well, there'll be more to talk about as we continue. But for now, we thank you all, including those who phoned in, for being part of it. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.